Alright, so I wanted to do a bit of a quick discussion on basically why I feel Rapid got a lot better this patch and why it's really good. So I'm going to go over a few things as to why the weapon is strong, and I think it should be more reasonably considered to be picked up at this time. So, one of the first things I want to talk about is the bad matchups Rapid had to deal with last patch that were a huge problem for it. Basically, Rapid had a super hard time dealing with two specific weapons, and you could run comps full of these weapons, and that could make it really difficult for Rapid to do anything. Not impossible, but it would still make it really difficult. The two weapons that were a huge problem for Rapid in the last patch were Tanabrella and Ballpoint. Ballpoint was a super difficult backline matchup because it has a lot of mobility, range, and a short range mode with high mobility. This means it can be really difficult to secure kills, keep consistent pressure, Torpedo gets less value, and then at CQC it's not a guaranteed kill, and it even has the advantage. This can make it really tricky for you to deal with it, and considering backlines are normally really easy to pressure with torpedoes, being chargers or X-Splashers, it is honestly a really difficult thing to deal with, and on top of that, Ballpoint was good enough to where you could see two of them, which could make it really difficult, since two of the weapons in the game could outrange and pressure you, which kind of takes away your job. The other thing was Tent. I know a lot of people think Blaster is actually pretty good against Tent, and in some situations, yes. However, because Tent could regenerate its shield and have another one up as quickly as it could, Tent could always survive a Rapid if it knew how to strafe around shield correctly. Torpedo damage could be a little significant, but it wasn't terribly difficult. It wasn't a horrible matchup, but you couldn't really reliably kill a Tent that was in your backline. It would always be able to live. And so, when this patch nerfed both these weapons, I of course immediately said that Rapid's going to be way better this patch. Not having Ballpoint is not just avoiding a bad matchup, but then you're going to be dealing with Chargers, X-Splashers, and E-Leaders. X-Splasher is one of the easiest weapons to pressure with Torpedo in the game, and while it's a bad matchup for Rapid, it's super good at pairing with Rapid and super good for comps. More Explo is great. On top of that, they even nerfed Explo a little bit, so just to be safe, that's there too. Charger and E-Leader both get super pressured by Torpedo, none of those things like it, and it's really easy to pressure that. Bamboo is probably one of the most even matchups that Rapid has. Torpedo poking with both Rolled Torpedo giving you a quick approach option that paints your feet, and Thrown Torpedo forcing Rapid to waste one of its shots on it can put a ton of pressure on it and help you to get a trade. It's really easy to at minimum get a trade as long as you poke properly. The thing you need to be careful of is not to rush a Bamboo head first, but that applies with everything. Even if the matchup is even, you still can't head first rush a Bamboo. So, those weapons are gone. That's huge. The thing I want to talk about next is that the CDS Bamboo Brella meta, basically, is what we're at right now. This is primarily in zones, but the main weapons in the meta right now are Brella, Bamboo, and CDS. I talked about Bamboo, but Squelchers and Brella are a super good matchup for Rapid. Rapid can consistently outmaneuver and pressure Brella behind its shield. Directs can break shield quickly, Torpedo can damage shield and the player itself, as well as paint around it, and Baller is a one-hit KO on the Brella shield. All of that is really good and is one of Rapid's best matchups is against Brella. On top of that, CDS is very easy to pressure its dodge rolls with your Rapid Blaster shots, and since Rapids use a high amount of swim speed up, you can outmaneuver dually rolls a majority of the time. This means you can safely pressure and follow up on dualies with consistent indirect damage if you know how to space yourself properly. Another thing I want to talk about is armor. I know armor has been pretty common for a while, but we're starting to see more double armor comps. This is because we're seeing more N-Zap instead of Junior, because Zap is a better main weapon than Junior besides pure armor spam, and people are starting to go to the point of utilizing armors better rather than just spamming more of them. On top of that, we're seeing double H3D getting more success because the meta is getting midline based. More on that later. Rapid is really good at dealing with multi-armor, and armor removing is basically the thing that made it good at the start of the game. Literally, the first place Rapid was good at was a 2 or 3 tri-meta, and you dealt with multi-armor on a daily basis. Rapid is still really good at dealing with armor, and Torpedo isn't any different. So having armor as a meta special is really good for Rapid as a whole. On top of that, multi-armor just makes it even more useful. The last bit I want to say here is that, ultimately, the meta we're in is a mid-range meta, and I want that to be clear as to this is why the main point Rapid is better. Rapid is really good at both pairing with and playing against other mid-range weapons. Some of the first things Rapid got back into the meta for were its matchups against Pro and Squeezer. So the idea that the meta is heavily mid-range with comps like Bamboo, Squeezer, CDS, Brella, Squelchers, all being popularized and other things falling off, ultimately is really good for Rapid. Rapid runs swim speed to keep its distance, and mid-range weapons will, in general, because they try to space their mid-range, be slightly in Rapid range or outside of it. This means their effective range is close to your indirect range to the Rapid Blaster itself. So this means it's really easy to space Rapid shots on them, since the area they're normally going to be spacing is the same for you. This means, again, they play an indirect radius a lot of the time, which makes it a lot easier to pressure them. On top of that, mid-range weapons tend to have worse swimming mobility in terms of shooters than short-range weapons, which makes it harder for them to approach or back away from you since you have more swim speed and are faster. Ultimately, most of the mid-range weapons of the game are both really good for pairing with Rapid or a really good matchup for Rapid to play against, which means that more weapons that are being good now are able for Rapid to deal with both in terms of pairing with and playing against. Ultimately, this leaves Rapid in a spot to where it can deal with weapons really effectively. Don't get me wrong, the special still isn't incredible, even if it's not bad, and Rapid still is a painting issue, so you need to utilize the pressure and matchups you have and your pressure on armor in order to be effective, but this more than makes up for it in terms of making Rapid a strong top-tier option. I would consider it top 10 in the game right now. And I think it's really underrated how the changes of this patch have made it a lot better. It's removed some of its worst matchups, it's brought the meta to weapons that more fit its style, both playing with and against, and ultimately improved the usage of armor, which is really good for Rapid as well. Ultimately, all of the changes of the patch, besides the Baller nerf itself, was a positive for Rapid, and the Baller nerf is minor since you mostly use Baller as a survivability tool. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Rapid in this patch, and I wanted to talk about it for a bit. Thank you so much.